Hi, it's Louisa Dahl. And welcome to the Interactive Minds podcast, where I talk with passionate marketers, innovators, and digital leaders about their specific recipes for success. In today's show, I interview Matt Henry from B2B company Signet. It was an inspiring conversation. Here's 3 things you're going to learn. 1, the surprise differences in moving from a B2C to a B2B role. 2, how executive marketing goals can flow to the team. And 3, how a B2B company can use sponsorships as a content play. Let's get into it. Today I'm here with Matt Henry, the General Manager of Marketing and Sales at Signet. Matt has over 15 years experience spanning both client side and agency side, and he's led the creation and execution of marketing and digital strategies for some amazing brands, including National Rugby League, Telstra, Elders, and lots more. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks, Louisa. Really good to be here.
Thank you for being here. Now, you and I first met a few years ago, we just worked out, June 2017, where you came to Brisbane to speak at an Interactive Minds event. Now, that was around content and I think social media as well, got to mention there. Thank you for being involved then, and it's great to be able to have a follow-up chat with you now.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome to be a part of the Queensland initiative, but also the national initiative that you're putting out there. So, yeah.
Thank you. Now, you've got lots of great experience. What's been a highlight of your career to date?
Highlights, I would honestly say probably the first and last thing that I've worked on sort of stand out as the highlights.
Excellent. Well, we are going to get into heaps around some projects that you've worked on, which I'm looking forward to. Maybe tell us a little bit about this role that you're in at the moment.
Sure. So I guess my role at Signet is probably a slightly surprising one based on my background. But to be honest, I've never felt more challenged and had more fun and even seen as much sort of tangible success in the business.
Great.
From marketing strategies as the one I have now. So Signet's a huge national company, but still with like a family feel as a culture. It's a real perfect mix of high performance and innovation, but with a real inclusive, family-friendly culture.
Excellent.
Basically sell industrial products, consumables. We're in the packaging industry. It's 4,500 products being sold B2B. It's super boring product set in a pretty dry industry within a fairly unknown brand.
Yeah.
So when you put those 3 things together, that's why I say it's probably a little bit surprising based on some of the brands I've worked on in the past.
Yeah.
But it's also provided me the challenge to disrupt an entire industry and do things a little bit differently, which is super exciting. I
love this because, I think this is stuff that doesn't often get a lot of airtime, but, you've come from a lot of big B2C brands where I guess, from the outside perspective, people might think that you've got the budget and the awareness and the brand to do some amazing things with. So it's cool to hear that in this role, which, as you say, is unexpected, to be able to give you those cool touch points, you're enjoying it, to an extreme. That's amazing.
I would say it's way more enjoyable, and I didn't expect that just from the perspective of, having worked on brands where you've even got, there's almost a fanaticism around the brand. It's kind of an easy start as a marketer.
Yeah.
You've got people crawling over each other to get to your brand or to consume it, as opposed to now where you're just trying to get people to know it. And then even when they do, the product and the industry isn't helping you any to provide, entertainment and engagement. So it's a super unique challenge and one that has just been really rewarding.
What's been the biggest change for you in going from a B2C role to a B2B role?
I guess figuring out the customer. As I said, walking in the door and previously sort of having gotten used to the customer really wanting to interact with your brand or wanting your product to people not being very little emotion involved in a transaction.
Yeah.
So firstly, understanding that, and then I guess not taking that for an answer and sort of flipping it on its head to say, well, why can't we create emotional connection with our brand even when we're in a pretty dry industry selling a fairly dry, boring product. So I guess that's been the biggest change.
Awesome. Now, what does marketing look like at Signet? How many people are involved and what kind of team structure do you have?
Yes, we've got a team of 10 to 12 sort of absolute rock stars in what we say is like a marketing environment, but it's really, marketing, digital and data.
Yep.
My remit sort of is responsible for about 75 employees within a sort of larger division, which incorporates, things all the way through from marketing to sales, even some accounts receivable, customer experience. And so it's a wide range of people that I get to sort of dip in and out of different things.
Fantastic. Excellent. What does a typical day look like for you?
It's probably not a typical day, but there's a lot of creative ideation that happens in-house. That's probably something that we're most proud of and enjoy,
Yep.
being a bit of a sleepy South Brisbane business, that a lot of the exciting stuff actually does happen in-house.
Excellent.
A lot of forward thinking, as well as just getting to know our customer a lot better. But it's anything from tracking sales results through to launching new campaigns on a daily basis, and then working on some longer term, bigger creative pieces as well.
Fantastic. Now, you've mentioned kind of revenue as part of what you work on there. Do you have some specific goals and KPIs that you hold yourself accountable to in this role?
Not just myself. I am held accountable by those KPIs from an exec team, which
Excellent.
I'm part of.
Yep.
But certainly revenue, I mean, we're not shy on saying that our marketing activity needs to deliver positive revenue results.
Yeah.
So, we're currently looking at double-digit growth over a 2-year period, which in an industry and a business where there has been a lot of stagnant activity for years is a huge KPI. But we don't shy away from making sure that our marketing, has a tangible, result, and that we're all held to that. I guess it's a unique thing being in charge of marketing and sales.
Yeah.
Means I don't get to point at someone else for lost results, and our team knows that at the end of the day we've got to bring in revenue. So it feels normal now, to be honest.
Is this something that you've had in previous roles as well, or is this kind of more linked to the B2B aspect, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's always been there to certain degrees, but certainly not to this extent. I guess we focus on leading measures for that revenue too, which for us is acquisition of customers, retention of customers, reactivating old customers,
yep,
and then growing current customers. Those are sort of the four pillars that we measure ourselves on, which are all leading measures towards just increased revenue.
Yeah.
I guess in any given day, we know that what we're working on should ultimately lead to those things.
How has your team responded to having, because I imagine these goals flow through, do they down to the rest of the team as well? How have they responded to having these kind of KPIs?
Yeah, look, I think it's important that as you go down through the hierarchy of the business, that those measures are sort of lessened. Otherwise, we found that it does tend to stifle creativity and marketing activity. It sort of powers everyone on, that I guess in the current age too, where we see data being instant, that a lot of activity is digital, and we can see results straight away. Everyone's sort of bought into the fact that we're trying to create success here, not just creative ideas.
Yeah.
But it does filter down and become less of a target for those on the front line, because we actually just want them to provide great work. Whereas for me, it's I do take on most of that responsibility.
Yeah. So when you say that, are you saying that you take the responsibility for the revenue, but you might set their goals around some of those other pillars that you mentioned?
Absolutely. So, some people might just be focused on increasing engagement.
Yeah.
And then we know that's a leading measure towards, retention for current customers.
Yes.
For the sales guys, it's not really that, muddy. It's pretty much just about, growth on current accounts and acquiring new business. So I guess for different areas, people in customer experience and accounts receivable won't have those sort of KPIs on them as much as just ensuring that the customer experience is going really well, which we know leads to growth and retention of customers. So everyone sort of plays their part in little ways.
Yeah, excellent. And have you managed a sales team in this way before?
I have way back in my first role.
Okay.
I was very green and got thrust into needing to manage regional salespeople when I had very little to no sales experience myself, which I'm sure a lot of people can identify with being thrown in the deep end.
Yeah.
So I have had experienced that way back when. And look, in different roles, there was a component of my job which was, partnerships and brokering deals with suppliers and partners. And so, there's always an element of sales in there.
Yeah. What's been the biggest, learning over this period after managing a sales team this time around?
The biggest learning has come down to education on, marketing strategies through a sales team, because often those two teams can be, a little bit siloed. What I've loved about this role is sort of blurring the lines between what salespeople should do, what marketing teams should do, and really jumping into each other's worlds. I think it's probably been about that education piece of getting in the shoes of each other and each other's teams to understand what it's like to be on the front line and know the customer, as opposed to sitting in an office and coming up with amazing ideas that might not resonate.
Yeah.
So I think it's been more about people and culture than it has actually been about sales and marketing.
Yeah, interesting. Have you found any techniques that you've used that have worked really well to help you to blur those lines or understand the different teams better?
Well, we make sure that our marketing team, once a quarter get out on the road and have experiences with salespeople, so that they're actually talking to the customers and seeing firsthand what that's like.
Excellent.
Likewise, people that come into the marketing team have often gone through a graduate experience at Signet where they're on the phones with customers, and so everyone has had an experience where they're on the front line with a customer, which means whether you go through into a sales role or a marketing role, no one's pretending to know what it's about. They've actually experienced it. And that's part of what's created a pretty amazing culture here.
Yeah.
Of, not a lot of egos and a lot of humility and people having sort of lived it, not just talking about it.
Fantastic. Excellent. No, that's a really fascinating approach and great to hear a bit more about it. Now, today we do want to delve into a specific topic. As you know, we like to look at specific things that you've worked on and share some learnings and insights around that. And we're going to talk today about sponsorships. Tell us what you've done in the past in this space and what you're doing now that's a bit different.
I guess some of the sponsorships I've been involved in the past, and while it wasn't my sort of complete remit in previous roles, it had been a lot more. The experience has been a lot more about providing a business with, a pretty standardized list of inclusions where you slam a logo on a banner or within a stadium in sport or something like that. Where sponsorship is really trying to open up mass awareness through a live event or something like that. I guess we needed to be, a lot more productive with smaller budgets and needing to stretch that up, a lot further. At Signet, we've kind of turned that on its head to say that our sponsorships are actually not so much about, mass awareness as much as they are accessing content that lives on far beyond the event or the partnership. So for us, it's really been about brokering deals where we can see a great content initiative and then coming in and capturing that and then telling that story for a long period well after that's taken place.
Excellent. Can you give us an example of something that you've worked on that's been of this type of case?
Yeah, so I guess, there's a couple of examples because we're doing it all over the place. The most recent is that we've become a major partner of the Australian Boomers. And that is, that is about it's a content-led series in the lead up to the Olympics next year.
Yep.
So you'll see more of that as the year goes on. But again, rather than trying to get our name on LED signage and spending that way, we really are investing in creating behind the scenes content to follow the players and again, not really make it about Signet as much as it is making about what people want to see, which is the players and the teams. And then I guess, lean on some of that credibility to have Signet be attached to that experience as opposed to put us in lights.
Yeah.
Then, slightly differently, we started out sort of wondering what it is our customers wanted to see or what they would identify with, and pretty quickly we knew that our customers it's the Aussie battler and the underdog. They're all Aussie businesses trying to make it, and everyone's sort of battling away. And so we ended up trying to find that sort of cult hero that our customers would be able to, identify with. And, I did some Googling and tried to find out if there was like an Australian cup stacking team, and all these sorts of weird and wonderful initiatives, and came across Air Guitar Australia, which felt right to us because, we're in the packaging industry too. And we felt like what better item to protectively package than an air guitar. So we ended up becoming the official sponsors of Air Guitar Australia, which then took us down a journey of creating an original series where we followed the best air guitarists, Australian air guitarists, not only around Australia, but to the World Championships in Finland, and told their story while we also supported them with the packaging of their air guitars.
Amazing.
So that for us has been, I'd say that's a tough sell to a board initially, but we've found that, the creation of that content and the storytelling has given our brand a lot more credibility as opposed to shoving a boring product in people's faces and trying to sell it up front.
Cool.
So that's really been the strategy.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I love the packaging of air guitars. That's awesome. I was on your website earlier, and there is a link to all the content that you've created around this sponsorship. So do go and check it out if you're listening. They're short, easy to consume videos, and I got through a couple before I think my phone rang, which was cool. It was good to have a look at it.
It's signet.net.au/air guitar for anyone that.
Yeah, great. So how did you explained a little bit there around appealing to the Aussie battler. How did you get this through to your board or your management team in terms of getting the approval? Because I can imagine if you hadn't done this type of thing before, this might appear a little bit left field.
Yeah, look, it definitely was left field, and I wouldn't have said that it was a miraculous pitch that got it over the line, as much as a bit of a slow burn about, look, this is where we've been in the past. Our business isn't necessarily growing at a rate of knots. It's pretty hard to lead with our product set. Yeah. And I think the turn of, social commerce becoming an opportunity is really what sort of turned the tide on that. I mean, saying that, look, we can continue to exist in this B2B space whereby, print collateral and product catalogs rule the world. Or we can jump into, the opportunity to get our brand and products in front of 23 million, 24 million Australians through the likes of social media. We just have to do it differently. So I think it was actually the way we got that done was by saying there's this huge market we're not serving, and in order to serve them, we can't put cardboard boxes in social feeds.
Yeah,
we have to do it a different way.
Yeah.
So really, it was a kind of, if we want to talk to 24 million Aussies, we've got to entertain and engage and tell stories. So this is really the only way.
Awesome. And as I mentioned, there's several videos online. So this is effectively like a little documentary series, I suppose.
To be honest, we actually started it out. We thought we'd make a documentary series, like I guess an original series of 7 episodes or 8 episodes.
Okay.
And upon filming, we thought this is actually, we'll put together a pilot to sell this in internally. That pilot went on to actually become a short film. Oh. And before we knew it, that short film was selected to be a finalist at Tropfest.
Oh, wow.
And no one really knew that it was branded content. And to be honest, it kind of wasn't branded content because it was just a great story about some really interesting characters. But that gave us the confidence to know that it was actually entertaining and engaging content if people, were entertained without even knowing it was done by a brand.
Yeah.
And so that then turned into, an episodic series, which we can showcase through social and through online.
Yeah, excellent. How long did it take you from kind of getting approval on the idea to having this content created?
Yeah, look, it's probably a year-long process. That said, we've taken our time just to make sure it's done the right way. We probably could have pushed it out in 6 months. But through, the end of filming, through to when we're launching, it's probably about a year.
Yep.
That said, there's been bits and pieces go out throughout that period to keep things ticking along, and the support of ordinary Aussies achieving extraordinary things. So we've been pretty vocal about our support for the Air Guitar Australia and these characters, but it culminates in the episodic series about a year later.
Yeah. And did you experience any big challenges along the way?
So many.
That was a loaded question.
Logistically, getting approval to follow 2 pretty crazy characters to Finland. You do have to constantly remind people that this isn't actually about becoming the leader in air guitar content production as much as it is a very long brand story. So it's actually a credit to our exec team and my CEO to give me the flexibility to let us tell that story. And I mean, we're already seeing that pay off just in the response and the trailing revenue that's coming through from customers who now have an affiliation with our brand that they didn't previously, and one that they probably never thought they'd have with an industrial packaging company.
Awesome. I want to talk more about that. I want to hear about how you have measured results, what kind of results I suppose you were looking for, and how do you track it back to be able to give this series credit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess everything does come back to revenue, and if all our initiatives are in the mix and we see a decent revenue increase throughout the year, that we know we're doing a good job. We actually, there's not a lot between other than face-to-face sales and our marketing initiatives that can really turn the needle on revenue. We're lucky to have really advanced data sets in here, both from a tech stack perspective, but also reporting. We've been doing consistent reporting for upwards of 10 years. So awesome. We can go in and see trends really easily because our business has been so vigilant with data to see how things move, and we can see every channel. We can see direct revenue coming in live. We've got a extremely large e-commerce initiative, bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars a day. So we are not short on data and the ability to track the success of a campaign, within minutes of it going live.
Great. And were you seeing success that quickly after launch, or was there any kind of lag between that?
No, not really. We see a pretty quick increase, and then we see a lot of trailing activity as well from people who we know have interacted with that campaign and nothing else, and then come back weeks later to increase to purchase, and then we see that their average order value has actually increased over the last 3 years of them being a customer. So it's those sort of things that we can measure on at scale to make sure that the results are what we want.
Amazing. And as you mentioned, this is branded content, but it is very subtle. How have you managed to kind of have that subtleness in the content, but then also have some type of call to action or track it back from that way?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's something you sort of fight about internally and with our partners. We've got a great independent freelancer who acts as our agency, if you want to call it that, but sort of a creative collaborator, and they're keeping us honest with when I'm feeling the pressure of having invested a lot of money in our brand not being completely visible. We have great partners that encourage us that if you put the content first and the engagement, I mean, like I said, we've got really nothing else to lean on, because we know that a first engagement with just our product isn't going to win anyone over. So it's really, it kind of comes back to that we have no other choice. And it's been a good thing to have, because otherwise I'd be leaning more on the brand and possibly not entertaining and engaging people as much.
Yeah, that's always the temptation, isn't it, when there's some pressure on achieving those results. Are you providing direct links when you're sharing this content back to what you're doing, or how are you creating that, or are you kind of just letting it happen?
In this case, we're leading with the content first, and then anyone who interacts with that content is then being served similar content, but in a more retail, with a more retail focus. So, in this one example, the star of this series is an extremely likable character by the name of Ginger Assassin. He's a real guy that lives in Perth, even though everyone who watches, that you'll think he's an actor. This is a real guy being himself. They watch the content series, fall in love with the character, and then, a couple of days later, they get retargeted with content or ads of Ginger Assassin actually spruiking our products in a really cringy way that is very tongue-in-cheek. Again, because he's so famous, he's now got a sponsor. And that sponsor is a pretty boring industrial product company selling, had and cardboard boxes and earplugs.
Awesome.
So we bring it back to the product only when we've, had a win with engaging our customer first.
Yeah, excellent. No, I love that. And that's a really important piece, I think, to share. And with that retargeting, then you're obviously using social platforms for that. Is there any other kind of way that you're able to do that?
Yeah, we do direct mail. We do, our email channel is huge. We obviously do social ads, Instagram, Facebook, stories, things like that. We go as far and as obscure as selling merch.
Cool.
So, people can purchase T-shirts of the Ginger Assassin if they're really into it, and continue that experience with our brand in completely obscure ways.
That's awesome. Very cool. So have you been happy with the results that you've achieved through this project to date?
Louisa, it's still really, it's still in market. It's pretty fresh. So I'd say that we're excited about the potential. We're excited about the very initial results, but it's kind of fresh. It's kind of fresh in market.
Yeah, excellent. How are you finding the view rates of the subsequent videos?
Again, this has been something that's kind of blown us away. So, we recently won Campaign of the Year at the ACNE Awards for a campaign under 200K.
Awesome.
That they call that a small budget. We call that, a budget that we wouldn't spend on a campaign that size.
Yeah.
But the reason we won that is largely to our view rate for another a similar activation we did, where instead of rolling out a product catalog, we got a street drummer to actually play our products and sort of subtly then bring up pricing for each of those products as part of a really engaging video.
Excellent. That's cool.
The view rate on that was bigger than any category on YouTube for pre-roll. Wow. I think we had, almost a 50% view rate of people viewing the entire ad, whereby usually I think that would be around 14%. With most people sort of skipping the ad and going straight to the content they really want to see.
Yeah.
So, we've had YouTube reach out and say it's sort of like broken records that they hadn't previously seen for our category. Wanting to create case studies of that. So I think that is the thing that keeps spurring us on, is as long as we create engaging content, like that brand awareness and interaction will come for the people who actually really want to buy the products. Yeah,
definitely. And I love how you're making this so much fun. I think that's really awesome to bring that fun aspect to, what typically would be a fairly bland product mix in a B2B space. So
totally.
we don't see it enough.
We come back to the fact that we have sort of three pillars. One is that we're operationally excellent, which talks to the fact that, hey, our products are boring, but we are so operationally excellent that you'll get that product, on time, next day delivery. It'll be high quality, customer experience will be great. And we don't shy away from being proud of that. Yep. But at the same time, being Aussie and irreverent and having a bit of fun, knowing that, hey, if we can't make fun of ourselves, like, what are we doing? Because, we know that we're in a really dry category. So I think Aussies relate to sort of poking fun at yourself. And so it's been part of our brand DNA.
Excellent. How much longer will this campaign be in market for?
It'll be in market all the way through next year. We'll partner with Air Guitar Australia again for the next season.
Okay, great.
Which starts in March. There's qualifying events all around Australia. So anyone who's interested in being the next Australian air guitar champion, all you need to do is rock up to your qualifying event in each state. Yeah. We'll be partnering with them all next year at the same time as partnering with a slightly more professional group, being the Australian Boomers at the Olympics. And so, we're sort of doing this two-tiered Get Behind Australia campaign, one for grassroots, semi-professional, and the other for elite performance.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it'll be interesting to manage those two campaigns concurrently, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be nice to be able to have fun with one, and then sell the high performance athlete dream. The nice thing to tie them together is they're both underdogs, which really comes back to who our customer is. So whether it's the ginger assassin trying to get first place on the world stage because he's come second in the world twice, or it's the boomers trying to get their first medal at Olympics, we're still actually selling the same story of the Aussie battler.
Yeah, I love it. Excellent. I'm going to be keeping an eye out for more content on that because I really enjoyed what I saw this morning and look forward to seeing a bit more as well. And hey, I'm probably not an air guitarist, I've got to be honest.
Everyone's an air guitarist, Louisa.
Yeah, well, I might be now. We'll see. I'll keep you posted. So for someone else who maybe is in a similar role or maybe not, maybe they're just inspired by what you've done here and they want to do something similar, where do you think they should start and how can they bring people along on the journey?
Yeah, look, I think bringing it back to the customer is sort of where we started, and I think it's a good place. I mean, it's kind of the obvious place to start, or maybe it's not so obvious, but knowing that in a content-led world, advertising is kind of in the way of entertainment. I think I'd start with trying to engage and inform and educate as opposed to advertise. That's kind of where we started, and once we sold in that concept to our board, the rest kind of follows by those rules to sort of say, oh, I know this is outlandish, but this is what we all agreed on, that we're not advertising, we're engaging, informing, educating, indulging, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so that content led piece was really important to get buy-in on first, and then once you've got that buy-in, I think the rest is not easy, but a little easier.
Yeah, definitely.
Look, I want to say too, it also helps having great people support. Like, we wouldn't be able to do this sort of content if our sales teams weren't out there closing the deal. And so, it does help having alignment across lots of different sort of divisions. Yes.
Super important in order to bring it all together. Now, Matt, you seem like a super organised person. One of my questions that I like asking is to understand how marketers are organising their calendars, inbox and email so that they can focus in on what matters. How do you manage these elements?
That's a constant. That's a constant in trying to sort of get on top of it. I guess, my answer to that is probably what most people are already doing, when it comes to things like Slack. But we've actually found Microsoft Planner and Trello to be really key parts of our interaction from a marketing team. The ability to use something that's calendar driven as well as very visual and very interactive.
Yeah.
I would even say Trello has sort of outshone Slack from what we needed as a team to be, turning campaigns around super quickly with lots of stakeholders.
Yep.
So, finding the right tool for your business like that has really been key for us.
Yeah.
And then we work in an agile environment where, we have daily huddles and leading measures that are all very visual. And so it's pretty obvious to see when something's about to crash because, things pile up or you'll find out at that morning's huddle, where the issues are.
Yes.
So I think I've found working in an agile environment to just be the best thing for productivity and quality. So I guess if you can mix some really good, business principles at a personal level and then match that with some really good, software and tech, you're on the right track.
Excellent. How many emails are sitting in your inbox right now?
That is the best question because people make fun of me. It's currently sitting at 4,058.
Wow, that's impressive. Obviously, you're not an inbox zero person, and that is totally fine. I'm not one either.
An inbox zero person. I'd love to throw away email and just have a line at the office with people that want to chat or phone.
Yes.
But I think email starts to die when you've got good things happening on Slack and Trello and and Office 365 and the tools you got there. So
Yeah.
if anything's important, it'll come back to the top.
Yes, it will. I'm going to share here that I have about 198 in mine at the moment, which is a little bit higher than I'd like. I'm more
That's
comfortable.
That's a lot for you. I've seen you clearing inboxes all the time. So
I'm more comfortable around 150, I've got to say. Otherwise, it's higher than I want. But hey, I've said it publicly now. I'm going to improve it for next time. Let's see. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Matt. Tell us how people can reach out to you if they would like to follow up with you after listening.
Yeah. No, LinkedIn's probably the best. Just search for Matt Henry. I'm one of only a few Matt Henrys. But yeah, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter, but I rarely say anything. I just listen a lot. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for being on the show.
Thanks so much, Louisa. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, please remember to subscribe. My recommended action item from today's show is to think about your content through a different lens and go and check out the air guitar videos on signet.net.au. Please join me in the Interactive Minds Facebook group where I regularly share industry news and updates. You can access today's show notes at interactiveminds.com/podcast. See you next week.